Hello friends, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate your time and interest. My first project completed for 2019. It's a maschinenkrieger Rapoon with a stealth Night Ops themed original custom colorway and scratch built vignette display base. For those of you new to my work, welcome and I hope you like it. My name is Lincoln Wright and I worked as a studio artist for this property in Tokyo along with others for kit makers and hobby publications. I hope to help you with your journey in our craft and empower you with my tutorials. Here's an overview of the steps I'd like to cover with you in this video. Let's cover painting the cockpit with custom colors and adding details to bring our finish to life. Hey guys, painting now the inside of the Rapoon, and I wanted to show you how I mixed up a color that I don't currently have. As part of my collection in Japan, I would often use a Vallejo model color called English Uniform. And I found or felt it was perfect for the base color for some of the leather effects, like the padding that would go in these SAFS suits. Now, not having access to it, I've got some of these colors, and I was able to make it here. It's separated a little bit, but here was the recipe, and I think this will be very useful for the future. In fact, I was going to buy some English Uniform, but now I won't, because I think we can make it pretty easy. The recipe was, very simply, around my palette, I don't think I can get it all in shot at once. So I'll show you. I've got the Schminke White over here. Then I've got Vallejo Dark Sea Blue up here. And then Model Color Black underneath it. And I've mixed them up into, say, 50-50 mix there. Then coming over here, I kept the game colors separate, just to keep it nice and organized. I've got Moon Yellow up the top. I've got Desert Yellow under there. And these are going to be two of my mixes I'm going to use for detail. I'll show you in a minute. And then I've got, the Vallejo name is Beastie Brown. And way back when, I think that was called Scorched Brown. And as you can see, it's quite it's a red brown, which was not quite right. This is a cool toned suit. I wanted to keep everything reasonably cool. So I've simply mixed the blue black into there, and it's produced a very awesome color, which is I think it's very, very close to English Uniform, and I can adjust it either way. If I want it to be warmer, I can add more of these colors, because they're all quite similar tones. If I need to darken it up again or thicken it up, I can simply add that color. And this is how it turned out on the inside of the suit. So I'll put that as the base for the leather. I'm going to paint it into the leather padding around the suit in here. And I've got it mixed about, say, it's reasonably thin. And as we were talking in Discord just a few moments ago, so you guys were asking whether you flat paint things and add the lines in, the panel lining afterwards, or leave it. I'm a big fan of leaving it wherever possible. Here, I will try to leave the grey. I like the idea of imposing on myself. Now this might sound a little odd, but you know, I've read a lot of, I said it in my mind, so I know it's going to be a bit odd. I've read a lot of the Stoicism, or at least stuff talking about similar things to Stoicism, about, you know, developing self-discipline. And I think one of the wonderful things about our painting hobby is that we can develop wonderful self-discipline through performing, you know, difficult, but they're not tasks full of hardship. I was just explaining hardship to my little girl a few minutes ago. And as an example, I gave her one that I don't think she could quite follow. I said, you know, carrying a sandbag on either shoulder as a 17-year-old kid when you weigh like 60-something kilograms uphill until you can't hold on to breakfast anymore. That's hardship. Moving around acrylic water-based paints by a brush is not particularly what I put up there as hardship. Right, in leaving the grey behind, that's the armour. In my mind, I've got that set out as the armour, the metallic painted sections in here. So leaving them in, it just saves me work. By being disciplined, exercising different kinds of discipline can actually increase the amount of freedom we have. Because, freedom from masking, freedom to having to repaint things. Yes, and I'm kind of getting off topic here, but they do match up too. It's looking okay. Now I'll come back. I'll need to give this a couple of coats. I guesstimate this is going to take 2 to 3 coats to get up to a decent amount of... I've over-thinned the paint slightly, so I'll need to let that both evaporate and build up some intensity there. So I need to mix up a little bit more of my... Is it my poor man or my rich man? I feel rich being able to do it, but not having to buy the paint saves me $5. But I'm going to show you once again how I made up my version of English uniform. So I'm mixing in a blue-black mix here, and you can see once that strikes the yellow, see the yellow and black with paint makes green. See how that turned green already? I'm mixing some of this in. Watch it change. Look at that. I almost feel like it's magic, isn't it? Changes from a warm red-brown to boom. That's dead on. A slightly darker shade perhaps, but that's dead on for an English uniform. But English uniform, it really was a green umber shade. If I can get all Bob Ross for a minute, it's a wonderful green umber shade. Whatever, we'll keep him happy. I'll continue on doing my base coats with that wonderful color. Now let's go around and add some variants to different places on our model and hand pick it out with hand painted acrylics. As a quick example, I've got the leather in here. I've gone around the outside inside lip. It's just difficult to get with the airbrush in there, but very easy to hand paint. But what I've done is, using one of our tones here, the dark sea blue. It's a perfect all-round color here. It's not important, the particular color is not what makes it important. It's using it strategically so that the tones will match around the model. And now you can see the inside and the outside look quite different. And what I plan to do now is make mixes of both the straight dark sea blue with black, and dark sea blue with white, so that they're quite similar and they'll still match up with our colors here. And go around and paint in some of the panels. Excuse me, this one will be easier to see. So I often like to pick out this panel as being different. It's not super important, there's nothing special about this panel, but they're light on details, these maschinenkrieger kits. So we've also got to kind of take our opportunities when we can. Now I need a little bit more water here. So I want to turn it into a nice base coat. There we go. So about a 50-50 water paint ratio. And again here. Now as you'll see as it finishes up, it'll be an ever so slightly different tone. Now the model has been satin finished, so it's a little slippery, and I'll simply, before I get to the decals, I wanted to add these extra details. So once this dries off quick, I'll hand paint on some satin varnish. Yeah, so this is darker and it's an ever so slightly different tone, so it won't be garishly, painfully different. Should be just enough to make it look interesting. The paint separated a little bit here, which I hope that's okay. Vagaries of sitting on the model for too long maybe. I'm not sure I'll like that, so I'll mix it in now. Try to produce a more even tone here on the panel. I can come back once more too, but that'll dry and I think that'll look pretty cool. I'm going to add another one of them I thought about going lighter, but no, I'll stay dark like that. We'll add another one here. So I want this suit to look pretty new. I often beat the heck out of stuff because it's fun, but so I want this guy pretty new, but still dirty and interesting. We'll see how that look goes. I'll tell you a secret too. I think it makes it more generally appealing. Sometimes if the finishes get too detailed, they only appeal to a certain segment of us. That's okay. People are never wrong. We like what we like. Gosh, that's a nice color, isn't it? You know it's right when you geek out on it yourself. In fact, I'm gonna add more of them. I want brighter ones up here. Maybe this support up under here. It's quite a boring spot on the model, so let's liven it up. That should contrast. This is pretty wet and the brush is very heavily loaded. And pretty loaded, you might want to put your seatbelts on. Again, that was one of those gags that if we were all together, if you and me were together, it'd be funny. This spot, I'm pretty happy with that. See how that panel is different? See how the panel's nice and bright? I did that just with the airbrush, no masking. Just kind of a bit of a practice thing as I was moving along. Okay, they should dry off pretty quick. Almost dry. And that will look very nifty. Give our model a little bit of life. A little bit more life. Next, let's paint up the figure. Add the night vision goggles with OSL object source lighting and get started on the weathering. Thank you for watching through with me, friends. I hope you enjoyed the first half of this video that I've shared with you. The full video steps is available to our wonderful supporters on Patreon, the Robot Tribe, a fun group of people that enjoy variety and humor with their model making tutorials. Clever combinations of products with an economy of effort. We aren't mainstream at all, quite unique and different. If this is what you're looking for, please come join us. Come check out and join in our Macross group build as well. Big thanks to Hobbyco and Little Robot. I do my best to buy from and support local businesses to keep our money in our communities and to empower physical events. I get to meet you guys and hang out. Fun. Please allow me a moment to thank the very special people who are our top supporters. Ivan, MB, Grant, Con, Jack, RJ, Mr. Tweets, Robert, Kelso, Kevin, David, Derek, and let's welcome Matthias, Dominic, Peter, and Nicholas. This episode was supported by you. Your support empowers me and makes all this happen. Sincerely, thank you very much, guys. More soon.